There we are. So I am here with a very wonderful being and a very good friend and a very kind friend that has agreed to be here and share about her experiences and about her new book. This is the wonderful Catherine Ann Clemett. She is the author of many books, including the book Anna, the Voices of the Magdalens that she co-wrote with Claire Hartsong, and the Twin Flames, trying to think the name of it. Twin Flame Union, yes. And that's about Saint Germain and Lady Portia. And now there is this new book, and I'm just so excited. And I asked if you would, come and have a chat for my YouTube channel and hopefully, get the word out there, because I am reading your book and it's amazing. Like, I can't put it down. It's just so honest and so, it's like a life, a life well lived and still being lived. So it's an autobiography, and it's, get the name right, Raising My Frequency.
Yeah, a spiritual journey, awakening to the more of life.
Amazing. So excited for all of us that are going to get to read your book. So without further ado, I'll let you tell us a little bit more about your book. Thank you for being here, by the way. I'm so delighted to see you again.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for inviting me, and that we could coordinate it with you in Egypt and me here, when it's not the middle of the night sometime. So that was good.
Yeah.
So I've been being poked by spirit for years to write more or less my autobiography or life story, because in my workshops and in my other books, I've shared many times the pertinent spiritual related stories. But I never really put it in the context of what was going on in the background of my life and how I got to that point. And so Spirit's been just kind of like poking me for years to write this. And, I share, well, from the very beginning, and where the title came from was at age 14, we had moved to a new neighborhood in Connecticut, and there were hardly any houses or kids, or not that I was popular anyway, I wasn't, but I'm just going, it sucks here. I mean, how did I end up in this situation, in this family, and I kind of had what I, in retrospect, realized was a temper tantrum with the universe. And about 3 days after I had this temper tantrum with the universe, I get my first ever download that I recognize. And out of the blue, what dropped in was, it's all energy. I'm like, it's all energy. What does that mean? I mean, I'm a 14-year-old kid in 1965. Nobody is talking about anything like that, And I absolutely knew it was true in my being, but I had no idea what it meant. So that was the catalyst for me starting to search, as we all get awakened, to start finding out the larger picture. That's, there's some occurrence. It doesn't have to be a disastrous occurrence, but for most people it is, that gets them to start questioning their reality and questioning what's real and what isn't. So that's what started my journey. So, and I share all of this, especially in the early chapters of my life. And what I ended up realizing was I've led a very challenging life in a lot of ways. And I share an experience where my mother and I were sitting at her kitchen table in Connecticut, and our house was 3 stories in the back because we had a sloping yard, and 2 stories in the front. And as we're sitting there, we saw our family cat, Cindy, who is kind of uncoordinated anyway, but she's in midair, right? Paws outstretched, flying through the air. And we watched as she went 3 stories down and hit the ground and kind of was dazed for a few seconds, shook herself off and walked away. So that became the metaphor that I always return to, that, I'll be fine no matter what's going on and how intense it gets. I'm like Cindy, I'll just, shake myself off and walk into the next adventure. So that kind of unfolded as the format where I share at least 9 times where I've faced in some way my mortality. So that in a sense is how it became not just a chronicle of the experiences in my life that eventually led me to Claire, but also kind of like an adventure action book.
Amazing, amazing. And the synchronicities of your life, like,
yeah,
just amazing as you share. I'm sure so many people will be inspired by, seeing in some way a reflection, because certainly I feel the reflection in my own life, and like, yeah, that happened to me. Yeah, that's how it feels.
Yeah. And people don't, that's part of my intention with sharing this, is that people can, maybe start to look at their lives from a larger lens and a larger perspective and see where they've had synchronicity. And, when I'm doing my workshops and things that I used to do, I haven't done any lately. But, in this journey, you have to figure out what your language is. You have to figure out, what is your communication from spirit. And everybody has their own signals or triggers or whatever, and it's like, that's part of the synchronicity where you're not so apt to override something. I mean, in many of the experiences, it would have been so easy to just dismiss it as fantasy, or dismiss it as, not really, I'm making it up, or not really part of reality. And I think it was because I was willing to just hold it, with an open possibility, and not, just dismiss it right away. When I met Saint Germain, which is a pivotal part of the book and kind of set the next 20 years up, it would have been so easy, because I met him as a homeless bum in the Boston Commons. And first of all, it would have been so easy to not even engage with this street person, right? And then to dismiss as crazy everything he said. And when I had the experience with him, it didn't make any sense at the time. I had no idea what he was talking to. I just thought he was a crazy person. But in retrospect, after I met Claire, every single thing he said were markers on my timeline for the next 25 years. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And one of the things, well, there were many, and, people will just have to go read that in the book. But one of the things he said to me is, you just need to travel light and a little bug, and traveling light. And then he started talking all about Hurricane Ridge and the Pacific Northwest. I'm living in New York City at the time. And I'm going, what is he talking about? Well, after I was put together with Claire, after we, brought through the characters for Anna, the Voice of the Magdalens, after I had already moved to Rhode Island, before we were given the go-ahead to publish that book, I looked over and, I still worked part-time for Claire, mailing out the Anna Grandmother of Jesus books to people. And I looked over and went, I'm going to swear, I'll be damned. I said, oh my God, there it is. For 2 years, I've been driving my mother's lime green VW Bug car. So that's an example of something that made no sense at the time. And that, I would it's not the kind of car I would buy. It's not what I would have. And this is like 25 years later. I'm going, you got to be kidding me. You know what I mean? So it's just those kinds of synchronicities that aren't a big deal, but yes, they are in the context of the overall story. So anyway.
And having the courage and also the patience, right, to allow that to unfold. And I know you enough to know that you are so trusting of guidance. I remember when you invited me to join you for that amazing tour that you did. You'd gone to Europe, and I think you even went to Turkey. I'm not sure, but anyway, you were ending up in the UK, and literally you were going with your suitcase, right?
Yes. Yep.
And I think at the time I turned you down because I had the job at a restaurant in Sedona.
Right.
Yeah.
And look at you now. Oh, that's what you're doing.
And here I am, and I did exactly what you did. I arrived here with a suitcase, and I just felt I had to stay for a month, and I ended up signing a contract for a year rental, and then this was 4 years ago.
Right. So that's the trust, and it isn't making for me, it wasn't necessarily a conscious decision to trust, because I'm put in situations. It's like initiations in Anna's time, or initiations in the temples that the priestesses would have to go through. You know, our present day life is our series of initiations that's analogous to what they were doing. And I've had the biggest initiations lately getting this book out that I've had all the way along. So I just have to keep, anchoring myself and reminding myself, I'm going to be okay, So it's not like it stops once you write a book or something, it just intensified, because I think the universe, and I've run into this before, if you're going to be the one teaching or talking about something, and then I created my frequency raising website that I also was guided to trademark. You start talking about how people can, raise their frequency and what that is, the universe is going to throw everything at you that is the opposite of that. It's like, how are you going to deal with this one? I have 4 bank accounts and 3 of them got overdrawn in a week. That kind of stuff. And I didn't know, I knew where some money was supposed to come from, but I'm like, okay, so that's just an example, and I'm like, really? And it got so intense that, it was almost comical, And I think it's that kind of thing where we just have to take a whole different lens and look at it and not get sucked into the fear, that's rampant throughout our entire lives, but particularly really rampant right now. So
absolutely. And I love what you said.
Out of it. Not in a huge way, but enough that, but that's what the journey's about. How are you going to, pull up your big girl pants and face it, or deal with it, or come from a different direction, or consider something else instead of what you've always thought or been or done, so that's what I tried to share throughout the book.
Absolutely. And it's so evident because, as I said, I felt on some level the parallel of my own lives and how I began as a child, and the difficulties in my life that trained me to not, in many ways, to not expect and to somehow see that there is magic everywhere. And I love what you said, that it's not that we set up necessarily with, I will trust. It's more like there is little choice.
Oh yeah.
And then the current just takes us, and before we know it, we landed well, just like your cat. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And
I think one of the biggest things for trust for me was, and I share this whole section and story in the book. I had a out of the blue reading with somebody I didn't even know existed. my friend Evelyn from LA and I went to visit this other co-author of mine who lives in Virgin, Utah. And Evelyn asked, she goes, whatever happened to Merlin? Because there's a real guy named Merlin that owned property about 25 miles up the Kolob Plateau Road for my friend Vicky. And Vicky said, oh, he sold it to a psychic. And I'm going, is she any good? And she goes, yeah, she's really good. And Merlin had a bar on his property. So I think a lot of the wayward Mormons used to drive 25 miles up the road where they wouldn't be seen drinking at his bar. You know, I mean, that's my guess. I don't know for sure. So anyway, the next thing I know, we didn't even ask for readings. And Vicky called us up early the next morning and she goes, I talked to Mary Angela and she cleared her schedule to be able to, you know, do readings for both of you. I'm like, really? I mean, so we had readings and we had just published Voice of the Magdalene. So I had the honor books in my hand and I wanted to know, you know, how do I move forward? Because Claire Hartsong had gone into retreat in 2006, except for the year that we worked to, when we finally got the go-ahead from the Councils of Light to publish the book. We had to walk away from Honor the Voice, from all of that work in 2006, because the Councils of Light didn't know if the mass consciousness was ready. So when you do all of that work and then you just have to drop it and walk away, having no idea if anything was ever going to come of it. So Claire had gotten in touch with me and said she finally got the go-ahead from the Councils of Light for us to turn it into the sequel, into the book. So Claire and I spent the next year, you know, with that, all of those recorded sessions and putting it together in chronological order and expanding the narrative and, you know, into what turned out to be Voice of the Magdalens. So now I lost my train of thought. Where did I start with this? Do you remember?
The psychic that cleared her schedule.
Yes. So, you know, some of my own personal stuff that I share in the book, I asked about that. And I asked, what do I do with this material, this information? And then she, out of the blue, started telling me about these 12 places around the planet that were what she called Magdalene grids. She goes, and I knew around 2007 or so that there had been a Christ grid erected around the planet by the ascended masters and, you know, angelic realms and whatever. She said, that's only half the story. They're corresponding divine feminine grids within the planet itself that need to be reawakened and activated. So she gave me 11 of the 12 places and told me I had to figure out where the first one was and that it was on the prime meridian, but I intuitively knew it wasn't Greenwich, England. So that synchronicity is all in the book, how that unfolded. But so anyway, it was to be done on 11/11/11. Well, this reading was like the end of August in 2011, which was like August, September, October. It was like 10 weeks until the date I had to do it, this thing, you know, and I figured out, which was a bizarre synchronicity with somebody that kept calling me from Lourdes, France, that it was Lourdes, France. So anyway, yeah, you probably haven't gotten to that part yet, but
no, I haven't.
I'm like, okay. And I knew that I could say no, that there would be no repercussion or judgment or anything. And for 3 weeks, I'm like a deer in the headlights. And I'm going, I'm like totally in debt, living in California. The book had only been out for a year, less than a year. And I'm going, nobody knows who I am. So finally, I appealed to Anna and the Councils of Light. I said, you want me to do this? You get me there. I'll show up. So the synchronicity of the universe, I had an ex-roommate who was a senior flight attendant with American Airlines who sold me one of her D3 passes because I was told I had to go to Glastonbury and get water from the White Spring to bring to each of the grid activations before I went to France. So, I mean, that whole story is in there. And so I got myself there, and there's all kinds of drama which you can read around that. But I finally get to France, and I'm going, I don't even know what the hell grid activation is. I mean, I just said I would show up and open my mouth. And I said, okay, other side, you better show me what I'm supposed to do and what this is and what this means. And I allowed myself to be guided, with support and help from a few people along the way that helped fill in the pieces. But I just showed up and I said, okay, I'm offering myself as a conduit here, even though I have no idea what I'm doing or what I'm supposed to do. And that started it. So, and it just completely unfolded from there. But talk about trust,
Amazing.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
And we all have the ability to do that, if we just learn, how our higher self and our light team, our team from the other side, work with us and how they communicate with us, And people think that I just have these really, massive communications. No, I don't. I mean, it's the most subtle communication. I tell people I feel like I'm doing all of this in a soundproof room with the lights out and the shades down. It's just the merest inkling of a feeling, like a thread that, you just give focus to and decide you're going to follow. So.
Absolutely. We've been doing this. I kind of spearheaded some projects. One of them was 2 years ago, and that was about going within for 1 minute and slowing the mind and, allowing something new to come in. And then from there, we got to this year, and we're doing 108 days listening to trees. And
cool.
Yes, and one of the very important messages that we've received is just that, is to just do nothing, slow down, and then you access everything. And it sounds just like what you're describing. It's like being in a almost in one of those deprivation chambers, but it's not that you're depriving yourself, it's the opposite. You're allowing all of the senses to perceive. Absolutely. But yeah, it fascinates me, the stories in the book, like how you came across, how you contacted. So just in case people listening to this and haven't yet experienced, because I really feel that the Anna books are an experience, or a life experience.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
The first book was Anna, the grandmother of Jesus, and then Anna, the Voices of the Magdalens. And you had read the first book, and then you had contacted Claire, Heart Song, and that you had forgotten all about it, and then somehow she puts you into her schedule, and you had no idea that it would be 18 months if you really wanted to have a slot with her for a session.
Right.
And how all of that, I was reading that in the book, and how all of that unfolded, and how you felt, oh, I better do this, although it wasn't necessarily what you had signed up for, and what you saying yes to that created all of the next events. So, and how you.
And what's really interesting about that is, since I had this experience when I was 14, I was very much following like metaphysical, spiritual information, eventually channels. I got involved with Ramtha, the Ramtha before the school was created. So I was very much into all of that. I wasn't into anything remotely Christian, because I had walked away from the Catholic Church, because I'm going, nope, this isn't it for me. So it wasn't that I was attached to the Holy Family members or Mother Mary or Yeshua, Jesus, or any of it. I mean, I just went, nope, it just went like that. So the universe had to work really hard to get my attention, because I wasn't even open to anything remotely Christian. So, it was quite a feat to put together the synchronicity that Saint Germain is the one that instigated for both of us. To get me together with Claire, because that was not a direction I was interested in or looking at all. So it's not like I came to this because I'm a, devotee of Mary Magdalene or any of them. It was just not in my realm. So that's why it was a real surprise, all of those pieces that unfolded. But as I stepped into it, of course, it was the most perfect place for me to be, because it was totally different than what we think it should be, and it was really an incredible awakening of soul memory, participating in that.
Amazing. And yes, again, for the ones that don't know you, which I'm sure is not many people that don't know you, you also are a tour leader. You've been guiding people to sacred sites, and you are a channeler. And I remember, I think, playing crystal balls for one of your events in Sedona. And so there's so much depth to you, and so much, I want to say, so much dedication to what you came here to do. And I do astrology, and I specialize, like I focus on the origins and the trajectory of the soul. And so I go very much as I want to say as mission and purpose for being here, and the reasons for experiencing usually childhood trauma, and how that develops into who we are, and how we harness our own self-knowing. And yeah, I keep getting the word courage, because you are such a wonderful being, and so courageous in just saying yes to life. And it was just such a joy. And I haven't had time to finish the book, but it's just such a joy to see how you somehow, as you said, you turn it around and you see why, the reasons for being, and then before you know, you written yet another wonderful book. And so yeah, amazing. And so are you planning any more tours?
I have no idea what's next. I'm just waiting.
I want to know if you're coming to Egypt.
I would love to. Yeah, I don't know yet. I'm trying to, I've been guided to open, like I said, to really focus on this idea of frequency, that we all can look at our lives in terms of frequency. And as most of you know, probably, who are watching, we're in such a transitional time right now. And everything that we've had from the old energy, that just doesn't work anymore. So we have to figure out, what it is, what environment, or, what new energy are we in, and how do we begin to, build structures and forms and things that are in alignment with that energy and support it. And the manuals haven't been written.
It's so new, isn't it? It's so new. I think it hasn't happened on planet Earth yet. And I was just speaking to my group on Sunday, and it feels like the more the months and the years go by, the more we realize that it's not about knowing anything. It's just like, okay, whatever is happening in the now. There is no vision for, like, what we might have experienced before. I remember times in my life when my children were growing up that there was some kind of plan, the children were going to this school, and then they were going to that school. I don't think you could do that now, as life is so fast, and we are transitioning to something completely new. And as you say, as the frequencies are changing, adaptation is important.
And I just am being guided to read this section. in the middle of the book, my life has been crazy. I was led to be part of this cult, an actual full-on cult for
Yes.
8 years. And my best friend at the time was also in that, and we had a catering food business together. But she was so bitter with the experience and what happened and how we were treated in the cult that she developed colorectal cancer, and she passed 2 years after she left the group. So in 2003, this was 2 years, she passed in 2001. So I'm sitting there and I could feel her really strongly around me. And I mean, you know, I do channel, but I have a lot of resistance. So it takes a lot to get me to sit down and pay attention and go, oh, okay, I'll do it. You know what I mean? Yeah, whatever. So anyway, she was there, and I just want to find the right place. She starts about talking about where she is now and not to be alarmed at the process, and how she has such an expanded view, and the struggle that we all go through can be much easier. So I won't go into that. But then she goes, I watched you go to Rosemere, which is the neighborhood where the cult was located. This was in Vancouver, Washington. You have been working very hard these last years and also before with the cult. I can help you with all of that. Padma, the cult leader. It is important to write about it, the cult, and her. Padma, for she is a little weasel, a predator. The time of predators is up, and you can help by dissolving the behavior and the manipulation. You hold that protection in your belly. Padma and the group, that is the manipulation. The dark side that is losing power, momentum, and force. It has become a farce. We all chose to be part of that, to diffuse and diminish the power of what once were powerful ruling forces throughout history on and off your planet. What is happening now is individuals like us are choosing completion of these experiences carried in the soul in order to, in physical life, break the spells and dismantle the codes and the control. That can only happen through participation on a human level when we individually make a choice to transcend and go beyond, as you, I, and others have done. We are the code breakers that are dismantling the grids of evil, manipulation, and control. It is powerful work, and we need to do it by living it and rising beyond the intimidation, control, and fear. As for my experience, I was so wounded and bitter that the wounding and bitterness became my physical demise. The wounding was my self-wounding as not thinking and feeling better of myself and allowing that kind of abuse to occur. They will be stopped. In fact, much dismantling of the force and manipulative intent and meddling they've been doing has already occurred. However, I have something important to speak to you about. It is now time for the undecided to become decided about their path, their place, and their focus in the universe. You have been in limbo, your vacillation about bringing the word forth for too long now. This was before I wrote anything, by the way. It is now the time to rally and give forth the best of you, for you have it in yourself to give. It is part of your soul contract and will affect and influence the soul contracts of many, many other beings. They are waiting for your call, for your presence, for your light. Do not hesitate out of fear, my dear one, as there are many gathered here together in oneness. I know you can do it. Try a little muster and the path will fly open for you. Do all you can to conquer the inertia, the fear, and the undeserving attitude. Many will stay in the state of unserving if they stay in the state of undeserving. Contemplate that one. Now is the time to focus within, like using a figure 8, and then express that wisdom, light, and energy without to all you come into contact with. It is now time to demand and command a new way of interacting and being, to insist upon communication on a higher level, for you are creating your own world, your own hologram, as well as the collective hologram, by what you take in and what you give out. It is now upon you the shift of the ages, as you know. It is what you all individually and collectively have planned for eons. Do you think for one moment that you would want to miss the fireworks? It is a grand adventure, a grand undertaking, and a grand achievement, for it signifies humans have come of age. It is the collective humanity shedding the garment of density and reclaiming their innate, natural, God-given garments of exquisite light, of exquisite presence, of great gifts, of great expression, and great deliverance. So doesn't that explain today? This was in 2003 that message came through. So I just thought I'd share that.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's fascinating. It reminded me of like you, when I feel I must do something, I kind of push it away because I you know, maybe it's not me, or maybe I misheard, and then it just keep pushing until I go, okay, fine, but you know, it needs to be this way and it needs to be that way, and then boom, everything comes.
Right.
Being just as you were sharing before, when you went to Lourdes. And I just remembered, I'd forgotten that I was being given what I felt as a vision, because I was asking, why would I take this group? There was a group of women that wanted to go to France, because I used to live in that region of the Languedoc. And I was given this vision of a grid that was made of spun sugar. I guess because I was living in France, there is a lot of those patisseries that are burnt sugar. And so the vision I had is that all around the earth was the spun sugar grid. And that was, although it was sweet, it was made of lies. And we, as the Magdalens of Earth that had returned, had to go and speak truth into those points. And as you said, we didn't really know what was it that we were doing, or even if we had to say anything, but we went. And I probably ran that for maybe 3 years, I think. And until a time that it felt it was whatever our part was completed. So just as you were saying something, it reminded me of that grid that was lies, and that somehow we had to crack it by bringing truth into it, which I guess is frequency, because high frequency.
And it's not done from our human part at all. I mean, you know, I once had somebody a reading said, if you had any idea, you know, consciously what you would be embarking on, you would have just, you know, shut your shell like a little clam and never opened it again, you know. And
and I think this is why I'm getting the word courage, because I think there is so much in that.
But, you know, we're just in the moment. You're just dealing with what you need to deal with. You know, I don't think of it as courage. You know, I guess it is when you look at it from the outside. But I'm just going, well, okay, this is what's in the space at the moment. And it's like being, how do I say this? Like doing the grid activations, or a lot of things I've done. I mean, I just over and over say, I'm so grateful that I open my mouth and something comes out, because I have no idea what I'm going to say. You know what I mean? Or if it's going to be good or not good, or, you know, relevant to people or not. You know, I just like this, you know, communication we're having. I mean, you know, you just open your mouth and see what comes out. There's no, rarely, a little bit. Sometimes I have to put a little, you know, pieces into place so I don't forget to address something. But, you know, I'm just there being an open conduit for whatever needs to come through in the moment. And that's, you know, it's a level of trust, I think, that is part of the awakening path, that each person is, you know, being asked to go through their own steps to do that for themselves, whatever that looks like for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And the other part I feel on this journey is that it's time for us to find the others. I feel like it's no longer, you know, we did our little thing over there, and then, you know, we might have done our little thing over here. Now it feels okay. The ones that are ready, as you were reading, before, you know, the ones that are ready to say yes to the reasons for being, even if, you know, we're never really sure what it is that really entails until we're in it. It's time to find the others. It's time to collaborate and co-create
Yes.
and be of, you know, whatever that means to be unified. I know we're not quite there yet, but whatever that means.
Yeah.
You know, slowly arriving at, you know, just like nature does, you know, how systems support systems. So I hope that we can get to that point of communicating and arriving together and being on some kind, sorry about this bling, some kind of nurture and support as groups come together, soul groups come together. And
Right.
I feel that's the important point.
And something I felt for a long time, it's like I could see what's happening. I mean, I couldn't specifically see what it was, but I was given a download, I don't know, 2010 maybe. And what they showed me was that the planet, who is a living sentient being in her own ascension process, there was incredible light coming out from the core of Mother Earth, you know, pushing everything that's been swept under the rug to the surface. So all of that negativity, everything that's been hidden, you know, all of that to the surface. And then we have intense galactic energies that have never been here before that are coming from outside of the planet, you know, towards the surface. And these two opposing forces, you know, are acting like a garbage compactor. So all of the negativity, all of the, you know, misuse, all of the lies, all of whatever it is being compacted on the surface like a garbage compactor. So it's totally in our face and we can't miss it. And, you know, we have no choice but to deal with it, you know. So I think that, you know, now we're in the, you know, in the final, you know, revelation that this is what's going on, and that, you know, it isn't up to just certain groups or certain people or certain politics to deal with it. It's for everybody to deal with it, which is where the frequency rising, you know, comes in. But you know, we're here to do that as, you know, awakening people and as Magdalens. I haven't really talked about Magdalens during this interview, but in my work with Anna, she was the first one to introduce the idea that Magdalene is like an order of consciousness, not just an individual, and that many of us that are starseeds and awakening and light workers are Magdalens. We will never identify ourselves as that label. And it's both men and women, it's not just women. And what the Magdalene's mission is to see the light and go in the deepest, darkest places that no one else will go, so that they bring the light, so the light doesn't go out. And, you know, that's, most people don't even have a conscious awareness of who they are or what they're doing. And I shared this in the book. I had a download. I couldn't understand why all of my spiritual friends suffered abuse of some sort. And I finally got a download and they said, you're not a victim, you're a volunteer. It's because of your fortitude and your strength and your courage that you have taken on this to go into the deepest, darkest places. So what the Magdalens do, and it's not just on this planet, anytime there's a planet or a system in an ascension process, the Magdalens raise their hands and volunteer or go, we'll go, you know, to do our job, seeding the light and being the midwives of the shift of consciousness. So I think that's always helped me and, you know, people I've worked with, for them to have a perspective on their life, that it's not just horror and tragedy, and that it's a bigger reason, you know. So.
Thank you. That's so powerful. I feel like I don't want to speak. Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
You know, these are just the stories that have happened along the line, you know, as you read the book, you know, you'll find them.
Yes, thank you. And
Mhm.
so when people want to find you, there is a website.
Yes. My new website is called frequencyraising.com. And I don't know where this is going to go yet. I mean, I've started, just tuning in and talking about it. And everything in our lives is going to have to change with this new energy. And as we discover that more and more of what we have always thought our reality was is really based on lies, how do we shift out of that, and what do we replace it with, and how do we even navigate that? So that's what I'm kind of exploring with this. But I also have my new book. Yesterday I released another one called Partnering with Divinity. And I was guided to go through all of the books that I've co-authored or authored, along with others that I've either published through my Light River Media, or like the Anna Grandmother of Jesus book that I've been associated with. And I went through and I found hundreds of quotes out of these books. So what I've done is I've written a book. It doesn't have a year, but it's an entire calendar from January 1st to December 31st. And each day has a quote. And at the bottom, I tell who said it and what, book it was from. So people can use it as like a contemplation or an inspiration to start your day off on a higher frequency. So
Amazing. I love that idea so much.
yeah,
That's
so that's now available on Amazon, both as an ebook
ah,
and printed book, and it's called Partnering with Divinity. Yeah.
fantastic. Oh, fantastic. So I will leave below this video your
Okay.
information on how to find you, and obviously all about your books. And yeah, is there anything else that you'd like to share before we?
Let me think. I think it's just, to help people feel that they have a voice and to help empower them, because everybody has a piece, even if it's just for, someone to bring forth their compassion or their kindness. It's not like you have to write books or, get up on stage and speak to audiences or anything. Everybody has a sense of what their piece is. They're part of the tapestry. And the tapestry wouldn't be complete without each one of you. Everybody is playing their role. So,
I love
and,
it.
and then you can go through this life and feel like you did and accomplished what you came to do, even if you don't have any clue what that is initially or at this point. It just opens the possibility for people to consider that. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you. It just reminded me, and I read this in your book, that you'd gone to a conference, Conversations with God.
Oh, yes.
His name, no, it escapes me, his
Neil
name.
Donald Walsh.
Neil Donald Walsh. And that what he had said is that you don't know what you might say or do is the hundreds monkey point of,
Right. It's going to awaken all of humanity. Yeah.
Yes, and I was like, oh my goodness, that is so true. You just don't know if you're the last, the last of the chain that will
Mhm.
bring massive changes. So yes, doing a part is important, and trusting our inner being. I feel like I was speaking to a wonderful friend yesterday, and she was saying, sometimes I feel like I'm crazy because
Mhm.
yeah, I can't have conversations like I have a conversation with you, because people will think I'm mad, and I really feel it's time for us to be ourselves. And that is the truth part. Is, I mean, we don't know the fullness of the truth, but we know that
Right.
we are the part. And if
Mhm.
we can just be ourselves without being, this is who I am when I'm at work, and this is what I am when I'm seeing my, relations. No, be yourself in the
Right.
totality.
But it's again about frequency. If you really look at it through a different lens, I mean, and we're all evolving, on a soul level. And a lot of people, they just can't handle it, or the frequency is so different That's why you have a hard time really connecting or communicating, because, you know, you're literally in a different frequency range. So the ones that are beginning to raise their frequency, and, you know, that's that awakening process, you know, and it's through your own aha moments and own experiences. It's not putting a doctrine of spirituality or religion on you. That doesn't do anything, but maybe keep you stuck longer. You know, it's like asking for your own, you know, relative to your life, your experiences, your own experiences that are going to help you open up and raise your frequency, you know. And you can just ask for that to happen, you know, and just be open to whatever happens. Doesn't mean it's going to happen the next day or the next month, you know, but something comes along and you go, oh, I asked for that, you know. So that's a beginning of your own personal, you know. That's why I say, I have a quote that in my book, that the most intense journey you'll ever take is awakening, and it's a personal journey, you know.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you for saying yes, and for just being yourself and emanating such beautiful joy. And I feel, you know, you know, because I know you, I always felt, you know, this beautiful energy of Anna and Mary, and yeah, just beautiful. Thank you for being yourself and sticking around through it all. It was wonderful this time with you, and I look forward to finish your book and see. And let me know if you want to come to Egypt. I'll be here waiting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I would ask, or if other people are reading the book, you don't necessarily have to have purchased it through Amazon, but I'm just, you know, finding out how the system works. So if you can, to go and leave a review on Amazon, a review. And the other thing is, I'm finding what's even more important is the rating. So Amazon will kind of elevate your book and make it more visible if you have at least a minimum of 25 4- or 5-star ratings. I think I have about 8 so far. So I'm just asking people to go on and do that, even if you're not, you know, wanting to write a review. At least just do the rating, you know. I think
we'll do that.
I think I need to make it more visible, you know, for people, to get it out there. Well, thank you so much.
Yes, such an honor, such a pleasure, and just delightful to be with you again. It's been quite a few years since I've seen you, as you said.
And I'm amazed at your journey. I've been following it.
I know. Well, I'm writing books too, so it's wonderful to see yours out. Well, I look forward to more, and to meet you soon somewhere wonderful in the world. And yes, until then, so much love to you, and thank you.
Yep, and love back to you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Catherine. Bye-bye.